Okay, let's look at some grouping. So grouping is another method for factors. And before we start grouping, it's important that you understand the previous method we looked at, highest common factor. So grouping uses ideas we learned in highest common factor. So it's important that you know how to do this sheet before we move on to looking at some grouping. So the best way to show you this is through an example. So I'll just do the first question here for you. AB plus AC plus DB plus DC. So the first thing you always look for when you're factorizing is a highest common factor. Is there a highest common factor? So we examine this expression here and we see, is there something that's common to all four terms? So you'll see even AB. So A is common here and here. B is common here and here. C is common here and here. And D is common here and here. But there's no one letter or number that's common in all four terms. So we have no highest common factor. So if we have no highest common factor, the next thing we look at is, especially if we have four terms, 1, 2, 3, 4 terms, then we know it's going to be grouping. And grouping is all about having them set up in pairs. So if we look at the first pair here, AB plus AC, they have a common factor of A. So if I factorize out A out of the first pair, in the bracket I'd be left with B plus C. Because A by B is AB and A by C is AC. Plus, let's factorize out the common factor out of these two, and the common factor here is D. So factorize now D in the bracket, I would also have B plus C, because D by B, DB, D by C, DC. It is very important when you're doing the grouping method that the brackets you end up with, those two brackets, have to be exactly the same. That is very important. If those brackets are not the same, well then you got to redo it and have another think about it. So once we've got this far and we've gotten the two brackets to be the same, we just collect the terms for our final answer. And our final answer will have two brackets. In the first bracket, we have our B plus C, the bracket that appeared twice, B plus C here and the B plus C there. And then in the other bracket, we collect the other outside terms. So we have our A here and our plus D here. So that is how we factorize by grouping. Let's have a look at another example here. So xy plus x plus 4y plus 4. So have I got something common to the first two terms? Well, x is common to the first two terms. And when I factorize x out, I'll get y plus 1. It's important to understand that that's a 1 because x times 1 would be x. X times y is xy. X times 1 is x. Plus, what's common to these two terms is 4. So factorize now my 4, I'll have y plus 1. 4 by y, 4y, 4 by 1, 4. And once again, we know we're in good territory because those two brackets are the same. So then I give my final answer, y plus 1 bracket x plus 4. Let's step it up another level here. So we've got ax minus ay minus bx plus by. So let's do our factorizing here. The common term to the first pair is a, and when I factorize out a, I've got x minus y. Now here's where we got to be careful. All right. So let's just have a look at this a little bit closer. So let's say I decide to factorize out plus b. Right. If I factorize out plus b, I'll have a minus x and a plus y in the bracket because b by minus x would be minus bx and b by plus y would be plus by. Now we know that that's not correct because these two brackets were not the same. So we have to be very careful. Remember, these two brackets have to be the same. So what I need to do here in this case is actually factorize out minus b. All right. Then minus b times what for minus bx? Well, minus b times x. And then minus b times what for plus by. So we know that minus gets multiplied by minus in order to create that plus. So we need to have minus times minus to create the plus. And then minus b times minus y would be plus by. And that's good, because now the two brackets are the same, x minus y and x minus y. So then our final answer in this case will be x minus y, a minus b. So I guess the important thing from this example here is just to be very careful with your signs when you start to see a lot of minus signs appearing. Well, let's have a look at one final example here. AC plus b squared plus ab plus bc. Now when we look at the first pair here, AC plus b squared, we realize there is no common factor to the first two. So sometimes, as these questions get a little bit more challenging, you may have to rearrange the order of the line that's been given to you. Rearrange the order of the expression so you can group the expressions together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rearrange it and call it AC plus AB, first of all. And they have A in common. Now I still have my b squared term and my bc term. Now the way I like to think about it, should I write it down as plus b squared plus bc, or should I write it down as plus bc plus b squared? Which order would be better? Well, look at the way you ordered the first pair here. So you've got AC plus AB, so the c term came before the b term. So I should repeat that. I should have the c term coming before the b term. So this is the correct option, as opposed to this option where the b term comes before the c term. So when you're rearranging it, you do have to think ahead a little bit. Look at the order here. C came before b. So when I rearrange the other two, I'll put the c term before the b term. So we're going to go with bc plus b squared as opposed to the other way around. Now, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference in this question because we've got all pluses, but when we introduce minuses, getting the right order is very important. So, plus BC plus B squared. Now, once we have it arranged in the right order, it's fairly straightforward to continue. Factorizing out A out of my first two terms, I'll have C plus B, plus factorizing out b out of my next two terms, I'll have c plus, and b times b would be b squared. So we know we're correct because those two brackets are the same. So our final answer then, c plus b bracket a plus b. So that is how you factorize using the grouping method. And the important thing to notice with all of these questions is you'll have four terms. Right, so when you see four terms and there is no highest common factor, well then generally grouping is the method for you. So the best thing for you guys to do now is practice these questions, check your solutions online, and for access to questions, solutions, graded quizzes and more, visit www.limmymaths.com.